What? Were you expecting Pennywise? Well, dear trainers, I apologize. This is my show. Hello, trainers! Professor Palm here, and welcome back to the spooky season. And as you can tell, I'm starting to get ready for a little Halloween party. Do you like to go to Halloween parties, or do you prefer to host one? I really love the spirit of Halloween, and parties are the best! Halloween parties are the best! But what other things do you like to do for Halloween? Do you like carving jack-o'-lanterns? Do you like trick-or-treating? Do you like dressing up in costumes? Or do you really like all the Halloween movies as well as the horror movies that come out at this time of year? For me, it's all of the above. But whatever you choose is also great. Speaking of balloons, what's a party without some incredible balloons? As you can tell, I'm really ready, and I also really love the movie It. Yep, Pennywise definitely does bring a lot of fear into a lot of people. However, have you ever wondered what it would be like if Pennywise was a Pokemon? Or what his balloons would be like if they were sentient creatures? You're probably thinking right here, how can balloons be terrifying? They're just some of the most fun things ever. I played with them all the time as kids. They were so much fun. Well, dear trainer, you're about to meet two balloons of doom! That's right. We're going to talk about the balloon line today. So, look to the sky and fear the balloons. Look up and fear Drifloon, and of course, the blimp itself, Driflum. Yep, these guys are balloons of doom! Ever wondered what Pennywise would be like if he was a Pokemon and not something like Mr. Mime or even a Pokemon that looks like a clown? Well, this is it for you trainers. This is it. The most terrifying balloon Pokemon you could ever see. Don't judge a book by its cover. Yep, these Pokemon are wolves in sheep's clothing. And trust me, the little fuzz on their head of clouds right now really does make me think of sheep. Mainly Wooloo and Dubwool. Oh, and of course, Mareep, Ampharos, and of course, Flaffy. I love those sheep Pokemon. Anyways, I think it's time that we talk all about these balloons and we go to higher heights. Before we begin, I want to give a very special thanks to my fellow subscriber and friend, Bintang Harapan. This episode is dedicated to you, and I hope that you're really excited about it. You wanted it? Well, here you go. But you're not the only one that I'll be thanking today. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing, this is the Flying type jersey. This was made by artist HTTP Koopa. I want to give you a very special thanks, my friend. Flying type is my favorite Pokemon typing of all time. But since we're talking about some ghosts that fly in the sky, it felt like such a crime not to wear this shirt. If you really like Flying type Pokemon, or you just really love this jersey's design, then please visit HTTP Koopa on Etsy like I do. That's usually where I buy my shirts. Also, this is also a shirt you could buy in the Pokemon game's Sword and Shield. So yeah, have you ever wanted to buy any of those cool jerseys you wore there? Well, you can from him. Please check him out, give him good business, and of course, tell him Professor Palm sent ya. You better be careful when you take a ride on these Pokemon. It could be a one-way ticket to the afterlife, or it could be a one-way ticket to a place you'll never be found again. Yeah, this is kind of the balloons I would say don't get a ride with. Well, what makes these Pokemon so terrifying, yet so cute? Well, why don't we learn all about these balloons and soar to higher heights? Let's fly into the atmosphere, and let's take a ride on the little balloon itself. Drifloon! Drifloon, the balloon Pokemon, is based on what else? A balloon! If you look very carefully at Drifloon's face, you'll notice that this Pokemon has a yellow bandage in the shape of an X. This is very reminiscent of punctures that usually happen to hot air balloons as well as a lot of blow-up things. So, yeah. Also, if you didn't know, that's also where its mouth is located. If you ever feed this Pokemon, you'll notice it right there. So don't worry, this Pokemon definitely has itself a mouth. Just like with regular balloons, Drifloon itself has a pair of strings, but it doesn't really like hearing its arms called that. So yeah, always call its strings its arms. At the end of each arm is cute little heart hands. They're very reminiscent of the little weights that were used to hold down helium balloons. I'm pretty sure that you probably saw this a lot, especially when you were a kid and bought balloons for parties. How would you fill up a balloon? Well, with Drifloon, it's a lot different as you see wandering souls gather together and form this Pokemon. So this Pokemon is made up of spirits of people and Pokemon alike. All in all, it's not air or helium in it, it's the spirits. And yeah, this Pokemon also has the ability to expand and shrink at will. Because of what Drifloon does, it's earned the nickname the Signpost of the Wandering Spirits. If you ever really want to see yourself a Drifloon in the wild, these Pokemon actually prefer the humid and the damp season. So yeah, when it's really rainy and when it's really hot and warm outside. I guess these Pokemon really like the spring and the summertime. Also, that's very reminiscent of weather balloons, just like scientists release at those same times. Oh, and if you ever pop this Pokemon, please don't do it. You see, it's said that if this Pokemon's body was to burst, instead of hearing that silly old farty air sound, you'll be hearing something else. Its soul spill out, and you'll be hearing ear-piercing screaming of all people and Pokemon souls in there. Yeah, I think it's better not to play darts or even on any sharp surfaces with this Pokemon. Drifloon also really do love children, but very similar to Duskull, it's for all the wrong reasons. Despite Drifloon's adorable appearance, this Pokemon is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Never, and I mean never, let your kids grab a hold of this Pokemon, because Drifloon will wrap its arms around small children's hands and fly them high into the sky. Oh, and if you think that they'll come back in maybe a little bit, think again, because this balloon ride is a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Yep, if you do this, your children ain't coming back. I guess you could say that they're gone with the wind. Despite Drifloon's stringy arms, this Pokemon has an iron grip, and it never lets go of what it's holding. I guess on one hand, you can see that as a good thing, as it will never drop any children to their doom, but that's not saying much, and that's not a compliment. Also, just because this Pokemon has that good iron grip, it's still a balloon, and it really isn't the strongest, and it can't carry everyone. Because of this, Drifloon really do not like heavy children. If you're about to become a parent, let me just tell you something. Always pay attention to your child. Don't look at your phone for a second. Don't leave them alone. Because if a Drifloon comes by, it's goodbye and I will never come back. Yeah. Well, on the bright side, warding off this Pokemon is very easy. As we said before, Drifloon doesn't like heavy children, but it also doesn't really like children who play rough, and it also doesn't like ones that grab and run away with it. So at least warding off this balloon is easy. But let me tell you, if you see that this balloon is around other children, have a Pokemon ready, because you're about to have a balloon battle. Drifloon made its anime debut in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl series episode, Drifloon on the Win. In this episode, it was under the ownership of Nurse Joy's children, Marnie and Paige, who used 4 for transportation. Drifloon is also Gym Leader Fontina's main Pokemon in the anime. She managed to get this Pokemon by hatching it from an egg prior to the start of the series. In the games, despite Fontina saying that this is her favorite Pokemon of all time, Drifloon was sadly never on her team. Even when she had a team for being a 3rd gym leader in Platinum, this Pokemon was sadly nowhere to be found. In the Sinnoh region, there was a place in Hearthome City called Amity Square. This was the first time you could actually walk around with a handful of Pokemon that weren't just Pikachu. Drifloon was one of them. If you talked to them while you were walking around with them, they could give you some items. Maybe it would be a rare berry, maybe it would be something that you could use for your items, or it could also be a prop for a Pokemon contest. Yep, that was a lot of fun. I also have to say, I really liked how the next games, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, took up on this and decided have one Pokemon follow you around. That was a great idea. I'm glad that Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu did the same thing, and I'm also really happy that Crowning Tundra as well as the Isles of Armor did that too. I hope that the Paldea region does that. That was so much fun when you could have your Pokemon walk around. Definitely felt like you really weren't alone on this journey. The only way that you could obtain Drifloon in the games it originated in, basically Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, was only at the Valley Windworks, but it would only appear on Fridays, not in the tall grass, but it would actually stand outside the Valley Windworks. However, the only way you could get it is after defeating Commander Mars and Team Galactic at the Valley Windworks. You could also change the date, but that would lead to another problem. For those of you who don't know, this problem also carried over to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. You see, you can change the date anytime you want to. However, if you plant berries as well as put any honey on the trees, that will be frozen for 24 hours. Yep, you can't get your berries, and of course, you can't get any Pokemon on the honey trees. So, it's your choice whether you want to wait around for Friday or you want to risk losing your chance to get a berry for that day or not get any Pokemon at the honey trees. Go out of your way and don't choose this balloon. In fact, don't ride with this balloon. As a kid, I really did like pulling my balloons around, but I don't really think I ever saw my balloons pull me around or drag me to the sky. Well, maybe we should see something different. Let's evolve our little balloon into something more deep and heavy filled. Yep, let's soar in the sky on a blimp and evolve our little Drifloon into Drifblim. And yeah, I hope you're ready. It's time for a hot air balloon ride. Drifblim, the blimp Pokemon, is based on hot air balloons. And if you look very closely at its face, just like with its previous evolution, you'll notice that this Pokemon has a yellow bandage. This resembles the bandage over a puncture wound. Right there is also where Drifblim has its mouth. So yeah, not much has really changed other than its appearance. And now this Pokemon even sports a cloudy mohawk. Inside of Drifblim's body, there isn't any gas, hot air, or any helium to make it fly. Inside of its body are souls, just like with its previous evolution. Whatever you do, do not make any punctures in this Pokemon's body, because instead of the silly, farty air escaping, you'll be hearing the ear-piercing screaming of souls. Drifblim also has the ability to inflate as well as deflate its body at will. But unlike its previous evolution, this Pokemon doesn't have a weight limit. So the sky's the limit for this Pokemon, if you see what I did there. Unlike what it did previously as a Drifloon, kidnapping children and taking them to the afterlife, Drifblim don't ignore what they did as Drifloon to children, and they feel the burden with a lot of regret as well as guilt for their actions, which makes them very sad and very silent Pokemon. Don't worry, this Pokemon's good now, and it only carries people and Pokemon around when it flies. It only does this out of the kindness of its heart. It's a good Pokemon now, and it won't kill you. However, there is a major problem. Since this Pokemon only drifts, going for a ride on a Drifblim can make you end up anywhere. So yeah, unless you like going random places, then I would suggest maybe get a different Pokemon to fly you places. In my opinion, I think the best thing that you could do is use your Pokemon Pager to get a ride on a Charizard. Use your Pokemon gear to maybe call yourself a Staraptor. Maybe call yourself a flying taxi with Corviknight. Or you could even hang glide in the sky using the help of a Hisuian Braviary to get you from place to place. However, if you happen to like mystery trips, then Drifblim is the Pokemon for you. And don't worry about this Pokemon's very tiny arms. They're very strong, and this Pokemon is incredibly fast. So if you were to lose your grip, it would catch you within seconds. And yeah, this Pokemon has a pretty good iron grip, and there is no weight limit for it. So you can go anywhere on this Pokemon. Again, just be sure that you're okay going mystery places, as it doesn't flap and it goes only with the wind. In the wild, if you were to catch a group of Drifblim, you would see them sleeping only in the daytime, as these Pokemon are nocturnal and they're very active during the nighttime. There's something that you should know, that a big group of them likes to drift off at dusk. While it's a rather beautiful sight to see, sadly no one ever really knows where they go, as nobody usually follows them. While it's rumored they possibly retreat to the ghost world, but some people even think it's a little more darker, as these Pokemon take their lives at night as they can't live with the guilt that they did as Drifloons. Because of this, there have been many songs and even poems dedicated to Drifblim because of this Pokemon's melancholic nature. A lot of people really admire them for that. Kind of crazy that people can cry their eyes out over a Pokemon that originally kidnapped children and took them to their doom. But now we see Drifblim as a peaceful and very sad creature. Kind of ironic, wouldn't you say? Drifloon also have some pretty impressive memories, as if you ever take a ride on it and leave, this Pokemon will always remember you. Kind of like a crow, it has an incredible memory and it never forgets anything. Even the souls within its body, it feels all the memories and it can never forget anything that happens. Whether a soul goes or comes in, new memories will always flood this Pokemon's mind. Drifloon made its anime debut in the Pokemon movie, The Rise of Darkrai, where it floated around Alamos Town, serving as a scout for Tonio so he could conduct scientific analysis throughout the city. Drifloon made its anime debut in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Battle Dimension episode, playing with the leveled field under the ownership of Fantina when her Drifloon evolved into Drifloon during a fight against Pikachu. In the games, Gym Leader Fantina used a Drifloon on her team. While it wasn't her boss Pokemon, as that went to Miss Mangius, Drifloon was the second in command, and in other places where you could rematch her as well as even fight her, you would always see that this Pokemon was a prime member of her team. It also was the star Pokemon for the Super Contests which she participated in. In these contests, she owned a Drifloon by the name of Looney. This little balloon has come a long way. First it was a tiny balloon stealing children to take them to the afterlife. Now it's a hot air balloon filled with regret, and it hates the fact that it did what it did. You really have come a long way, little guy. I'm proud of you. And now it's time that you drift away. As you know by now, Ghost type have very few weaknesses, but with another type, they sometimes get a few more weaknesses. So let's look at the strength and weaknesses for Drifloon and Drifblim. Here's what you should never use your Drifloon and Drifblim against. Don't go against Ice, Electric, Rock, Ghost. And as you all know, Ghost is also a double-edged sword, being a weakness and a strength. And of course, every Ghost type weakness, Dark. Yep. That's a couple of weaknesses that this Pokemon has, but maybe it makes up for it in strengths. It also has a couple of immunities as well, so I don't count them as strengths, but it's definitely happy to have, so let's look at all of that as well. Well, I've got some good news for you. If you're looking to use this line competitively, these Pokemon can be Balloons of Doom, and they have many strengths. So if you're going against these Pokemon, make sure you have them on hand, because these Pokemon are strong against Fighting, Bug, Psychic, Ghost, and Grass. Of course, these Pokemon have some immunities as well. I don't count immunities as strengths, but if you do, good for you, and they can definitely be very helpful, especially when fighting competitively. What are the immunities, you ask? Well, it's time to find out. For the immunities with Ghost-type Pokemon, they automatically get 2, which is pretty cool since not a lot of Pokemon typing get 2 unless they're a dual type. But these guys have an incredible amount, and it's 3 immunities. The normal ones for Ghost types, of course, are normal, but normal is also immune to Ghost type. And Fighting. But now that Drifloon and Drifloon are now Flying type instead of pure Ghost, they have one more immunity. What is that, you may ask? Well, it's rather simple. The answer is none other than Ground. After all Flying type Pokemon are immune to Ground type moves, because they fly. And just like balloons, these Pokemon fly, and they drift in the wind. Sorry, Ground type, but you can't hurt these Pokemon. Look, up in the sky! It's a Balloon of Doom and a Blimp of Chaos. Yep. These Pokemon may be cute and might be adorable for having the little clouds on their heads, like a little cloud hat and a little cloud mohawk, but they're anything but cuddly. After all, Drifloon takes children to their doom, and Drifblim is an out-of-control blimp or hot air balloon. It's your choice if you want to ride with these Pokemon, but just beware, sometimes these Pokemon go on a one-way ticket to a collision course, so you might want to be careful. But many trainers, like myself included, really like these Pokemon. Even if they weren't flying, I do think that they are some of the most unique-looking Pokemon of all time. After all, I really loved balloons as a kid. I used to play a game of balloon volleyball with my brother, and I always have had a soft spot for balloons. After all, what's a birthday party or even a party without balloons? If you ask me, something I think's really funny about this line is the way that they appear. if you look very carefully at Drifloon, this Pokemon looks all cute and so innocent, but instead it's a child murderer and it takes them to the afterlife, a one-way ticket with no return. But if you look at Drifblim, you'll notice that this Pokemon definitely looks terrifying, especially having those big red eyes, but it's a very harmless Pokemon and it lives on regret for what it did. It's kind of interesting to think that both these Pokemon have different motives despite their appearance. I guess you really shouldn't judge a book by its cover. It always makes me wonder what's going on in these Pokemon's heads. After all, they are filled with so many souls and they have a lot of memories of what's going on in there. Kind of reminds me of that song by the Cranberries, Zombie, What's in Your Head? But I also see why Fontina, the gym leader from the Sinnoh region, aka I think probably one of the best gym leaders, really loves these Pokemon. They have such incredible designs, and at the same time, they really are some incredible partners. And hey, they're also really fast and are great to have for battles. Well, as long as you don't have sky battles, because yeah, these Pokemon can't really control their patterns and they'll just drift away. Well, when you hitch a ride with these balloon Pokemon, there's only one place you can go. To quote Mary Poppins, there's nowhere to go but up. It's time that we go soaring up to the atmosphere, up where the air is clear. It's a very beautiful sight to be on these Pokemon. You'll go to places you have no idea. Definitely fun to drift away in the wind. In my opinion, life's an adventure, so go on with everything you can. If you hitch a ride with either of these Pokemon, they'll probably take you to places unknown, and they may take you to your doom. But you know what? Life is full of so many unexpected twists and turns, so why not hitch a ride with these balloon Pokemon? They'll take you to heights you've never been.
Ah! Hello, trainers! Welcome back! It's really good to see you. Glad you weren't taken to the afterlife, and I'm also really glad that you didn't get lost. Good to have you back. Whew, how was your balloon ride? Good? Bad? Meh? Well, I definitely am very curious to hear from you. Are you going to give these guys 1 out of 5 stars for your ride, or are you not going to ever do it again? Also, do you think the ghost flying type is a good typing for them, or do you think pure flying would be good? And hey, if these guys had regional variants, what do you think that they should look like? Also, what do you think about taking a ride with them again? Oh, and most of all, are you now scared of these Pokemon, or do you think that you'll catch it now and actually bring doom upon your friends with balloons? If you like what you saw, please leave a like. If you want to answer any of the questions I said, you want me to talk about any other Pokemon line, you want me to talk about the Paldea region since it's coming closer and closer, or you just want me to cover another Pokemon evolution line, please comment. And as always, if you like what you saw and you want to see more, smash that subscribe button. It always helps. And just remember, I'm happy to talk to as many trainers as there are possible, so don't feel afraid to recommend me to anybody. Thanks for watching, and the spooky season will continue to get even spookier. Palm out!